What is going on, guys, and welcome to the first ever Form Check Friday. So every Friday what I'm going to try and do is choose 3 or 4 videos that I've been sent in or from some of my clients, or maybe even my own videos, and I'm going to play them on the screen here, and I'm just going to kind of critique the form and technique, kind of highlight a few common areas which I see mistakes with everybody, and then exactly how we go about fixing them, and some common cues which I like to use with my clients. So first of all, I'm actually going to critique my own video, my deadlift from this week, purely for the fact I want to kind of rinse myself before I start rinsing anybody else's videos, okay? So here I had a reverse band deadlift of 267.5 kilos for 3 sets of 2. This was heavy, so we're going to kind of just watch this through first, and then we'll go from there. So you can see it's pretty slow, and that top's obviously a bit of a grind. That's what to do with the reverse bands and things. Rep 2, not the prettiest rep I've ever done, and definitely a big old grind at the top. So me looking back at this and being very, very objective, technique wise, what we can see when I play it back in a little bit of slow motion, you can kind of see my set position isn't bad at all, particularly on this first rep. Bang, there. Pretty tight. We've got a pretty good angle from our back, pretty neutral. In all honesty, I think I could probably get these lats a little bit engaged more, thinking about protecting my lats and hiding my armpits. So thinking about pulling these shoulders back and down towards my back pockets just a little bit more. But head angle is absolutely fine. Doesn't really matter where that's facing massively. Weight distribution, my feet looks okay. I think the main thing is just bracing those lats. And you can see throughout this movement, as I go to you can see how, because I haven't got quite enough tension through my lats and bracing, you can see how that initial movement is my bum coming up, and I just lose my back, my upper kind of mid back. So this is going to be a big work on for me. So you can see how all of a sudden, because those hips have come up, it's made the lockout of this lift a hell of a lot harder. And you can see how uncovered my armpits are now, okay? Making this lockout a lot harder, and I've got to really get those shoulder blades back. So and it gets even worse on this second rep, which you'll be able to see. Set position isn't actually horrendous. Upper back, I think, could be a little bit flatter still, and also protect those armpits a bit more. And you can see look how much those hips have pushed up. So I really need to focus on staying that little bit tighter off the floor, and that's going to allow me to make my lockout a bit harder. You can see my knees are pretty much fully locked out here, but my upper back's quite rounded, my armpits aren't tucked. So I need to really focus on that, maintaining tightness through my lats throughout the movement. It's always been a bit of a weakness of mine, but it's something which I really need to start working on a little bit more. Okay, so you want to think about really pulling the slack out of the bar and bending the bar around you. Protect those armpits, hide those armpits. Imagine someone was behind you and they're going to tickle you, and you don't want to let them tickle you. Okay, next we're going to have a look at Scott. Scott is one of my online clients, and this is him hitting a 100 kilo bench. And he's pretty light, so it's a very, very good good lift. So as we can see, the weight's pretty nice. It's moving very, very well. The few little things that I think he could work on, and which will help him really push and progress to the next level, are just trying to use the rest of his body. At the moment, his movement here is very upper body dominant. You can see he's got a little bit of tension through his lower body, but I think if he was to bring these feet back underneath his hips a little bit more, and then just really think about pushing his feet down and away from him, like really hard as he could, and squeezing his glutes, it would just give him a lot more power off his chest, okay? You can see how his elbows and his grip width all looks pretty good, because when we look at the bottom here, those forearms look pretty much perpendicular to the floor, which is awesome. I think possibly he could tuck those elbows a fraction more to just engage his lats a tiny bit more. It's hard to tell looking at his bar path from this angle, but I think his bar path could, on the way up, look at going a little bit more back over towards his head. But this is me being very nitpicky. Like it's an awesome lift, 100 kilos for a good few reps, but if he wants to really start progressing to this next level, me and Scott have already spoken about this. This is something that's going to really help him, starting to trying to make this a full body movement, not just an upper body movement. Pulling these feet back, really pushing those feet down and away hard, almost think about doing a leg extension, and then squeezing his glutes throughout the movement. And trust me, it will have his numbers going skyrocketing. But again, awesome. He's got lovely control, pretty much good elbow placement and things like that. It's just a few little things that he can work on to really help him out. Now we're going to have a look at Megan. A few of you might have seen this already on my Instagram. Megan's been working with me for nearly about 10 weeks now, and her numbers have just absolutely gone crazy. This is her smashing out a 100-kilo deadlift, and Megan's form is really nice. Like, you can see her set position down here is lovely. Nice neutral back, lats engaged nice and tight. You can see the bars broken the floor, and we're already in a very, very strong position here. If we look at like a nice triangle between hip, shoulder, hip, and kind of elbow-ish, that means we're in a real nice position. Okay, and you can see nice strong lockout as well. You can see bar path from the side. This bar is moving straight up and down. The one thing that I personally think Megan can really start to work on, she can get away with this now, but as these weights get heavier, she's going to struggle. It's very similar to me, actually. I think her thing is just taking a little bit more time as she tightens those lats and braces to as that bar breaks the floor. You can see how she's quite quick. Shoulder set, and then she lifts. Shoulder set, bang, lift. I think if she really thinks about building as much tension as she can while setting those shoulders nice and tight, pushing them back and down towards her back pockets. So you can see how there's a bit of a jerk there. And then if she jerks it, that's when her hips start to shoot up. And you can see as it gets heavier, that will happen more and more and more. Where if she takes her time building tension through this back and lats, that's going to help her a lot, okay, as those weights get heavier. Because any small things that we might see now, as the weights get heavier, they become bigger and bigger and bigger, and we see them a lot more. But Megan's form is literally nearly perfect. You can look at her feet. Her weight distribution is awesome. Weight looking through the middle of her feet. Nice strong back position, so lower back is awesome. I just think going forwards, taking a fraction of a second longer as she initiates the movement. So she pulls those lats in tight here, tight. Just taking a fraction of a second longer there will help her stop that little rock forwards. You see those hips popping up, and if those hips pop up, it makes that lockout a lot harder. So a very similar problem to what I've been having as well. But awesome, well done, Megan. Seriously strong, and I'm seriously excited to see what numbers are going to kind of come. Last one. So we've got Adrian. Pretty sure this was 100 kilos, he said. Adrian isn't one of my online clients, but he sent this in to me, and he asked me to have a little look at things. So if you guys have got any videos you want me to go through, just shoot them over to me on Instagram, or you can email them to me, theaesthetocstrength@gmail.com. Let's just have a little look at it on all the way through first, and then we'll have a little bit of critique after. Okay then. Got some nice lifters on, which I really like. I think they're a good investment for anybody who's looking to kind of take their training to the next level. Some lifting shoes, they definitely do help. Unless you're kind of squatting low bar, then you can definitely just kind of go flat soles. But anyone who squats high bar, I think some lifting shoes are really, really good just to help with ankle flexion. So, first initial thoughts. I think that this weight might be just a tiny little bit heavy for Adrian. Just whilst we work on a few small technique twists. So we can see Adrian's got pretty long legs, like he's quite tall. So, and his foot placement is pretty close together. So the first thing I would have him do is actually open up those feet a little bit. And hopefully this is going to allow him a little bit more mobility to sink it down into the hole. Because I don't quite think the depth that we want is quite there for him. So I would open up these feet about an inch either way. He can still keep those toes turned out a fraction if that's more comfortable for him. Then the next thing I want him to think about, we can see on some of these reps, look at his feet. You can see how he's creeping into his toes on a few of them. Okay, so I'd next have him really thinking about keeping his weight distribution evenly throughout his feet. A lot of people will tell you to keep the weight in your heels when you squat. This is going to make life really difficult for you. Think about pushing your big toe down into the floor, even weight distribution, and just keep this bar moving over your forefoot. So where you tie your laces, your weight should be kind of going through there, okay? That's going to help that out. Feet a little bit wider, and then weight through the middle of your feet. The last thing I would also work on is making sure that he's initiating the downward phase, the negative phase of his squat by pushing his hips backwards. So you can see he initiates this movement. You see how his knees move forward. See that first movement, knees forward. I want him to think about initiating this by pushing his hips backwards and his knees out to the sides really far. Okay? So if we go hips back, knees out, with slightly wider feet and good weight distribution, this is going to allow him just to get a little bit lower. So Adrian, if you just want to back off this weight a little bit, maybe just to 80 kilos for a week or so, focus on this form, hit good depth. If you've probably got an inch or two, if we can kind of get that hip crease around here, you'll be on the money, and then just slowly rebuild it. So if we're doing 3 sets of 5, do 80. The next week, do 82.5 or 85, then 87, 90, and just keep progressing from there, slow and steady. I think also maybe just taking a bit of a fraction of a second longer at the top to take a nice deep breath in and brace tight would really help you as well. So deep breath in, so you can see you're not really taking a breath. So here at this top, deep breath in your tummy. Fill your tummy with as much air as you can. Brace as if I was going to punch you in the stomach. Pull that bar down over your back. Get nice and tight. Hips back, knees out, and you'll be on the money, mate. All of these things, it seems like very overwhelming. It seems like a lot. But trust me, in the long term, this will help you out massively. A lot of the issues that I've kind of just spoken about there is something which I see so often in squatting. So everybody, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to try and do one of these every week. If you do want to throw me any videos you want me to go through and critique, please just shoot them over to me on Instagram or just email me them or anything like that, okay? But hope you all have an awesome weekend and I will speak to you soon.